So here's a generic blank one, our partial budget. On the positive side, we have additional revenue. And so with our new idea, but on the negative side, that new idea may come with some additional costs. Whatever we're no longer doing because we're making the change, the bad part is we're not going to get the funds that we used to get from it, but the good part is it may have been costing us money and we'll no longer have to pay those costs. So we're really balancing the good against the bad, and as long as the net's positive, then it's probably a good decision. So let's look at an example. A farmer currently produces 15 tons of cantaloupe and sells it commercially for $500 a ton. He's thinking of selling it from a roadside stand instead. So here's a change. Currently he's selling commercially and he's thinking about marketing directly instead. So he doesn't need to consider the cost of growing the cantaloupe, all of his machinery and equipment, all of that, because those costs are going to be the same regardless of how he sells these cantaloupe. He only has to consider costs directly associated with additional costs of selling the cantaloupe and the revenue that he would have got under both options. So on the positive side, his additional revenue is going to be the money received from selling the cantaloupe at the roadside stand. And on the positive side, if he had to pay money, marketing fees or something else when the way he sold his cantaloupe before, then he'd no longer incur those costs. In this case, that's probably zero. On the negative side, the reduced revenue is what he's no longer getting money from selling the commercially. And the additional costs will be any additional costs he has to do to sell directly. He might have to pay for some signs, labor for the stand, advertising, might have a fee for the lot that he puts his stand on, etc. And so what he's really looking at is if the positives outweigh the negatives, then it might be a good idea. And I say might because something to think about is numbers don't make decisions, people do. So use these types of tools to put in all your best guesses for numbers, and then you just kind of think about how that fits in with the whole operation. It may show a positive net gain here, but the farmer may also say, well, wait a minute, I'm going to have to spend a lot more time managing this if I sell it directly, and so I may still not want to do it because I don't think it has enough positive amount for me to waste my time with it. So let's actually show you how to do it. So over here, here's our partial budgeting form. And what we want to do is first consider what we're going to give up. So before, the farmer sold commercially his cantaloupe, and he had 15 tons, and he sold it for $500 a ton. And so the total is 15 times 500. If we sell it directly, he's no longer going to get this $7,500 from selling the cantaloupe commercially. So he's going to lose out on that $7,500. He's also not, if he had to pay money to take the cantaloupe to sell it, like there might be some gas there. Let's say he said, well, really, this was a couple of trips, and so it cost me $100 in gas to take that cantaloupe in to get it marketed. So that's what he gives up, what he no longer has. On the positive side, less cost that he used to have, but we lose our revenue. Now we have to put in the information for what happens with selling the cantaloupe, the good side. Here we have to think about how much cantaloupe we can sell. So here's our direct sales of cantaloupe. And instead of selling it by the ton, they're going to sell it by each. And he assumes that's going to give him 7,500 cantaloupe. He's going to sell them for $1.25 a piece. And so that's going to net him out, timesing one by the other, $93.75. And so the farmer is going to gain $9,400, but is that enough to offset? because in addition to losing out on the commercial sales of the cantaloupe, he's also going to have some additional costs. So it may be that he's got pickup gas, let's say 27 gallons. Like you might even do something like, well, we think that we're going to have to make 10 trips. It's going to be, say, 20 miles a trip. And we get, let's say it's 30 miles per trip. And you get 20 miles per gallon. So you might need 15 gallons worth of gas. When I say trip here, that's round trip. And so that would be someplace that was like 15 miles away. This we put in as our price per gallon for gas and say we think it's going to be $4. So the total price for gas is going to be 15 times 4. You can also say something for signs. And maybe this is just, oops, sorry. Once we're going to just put in that it's $50. So $50, and just our unit is just all the signs. So signs in general are going to cost us $50. Labor, he's going to have some labor at that stand for selling the cantaloupe. So this isn't all the labor that he has for growing the cantaloupe, weeding, harvesting, all that. This is just for selling, because that's the only thing that's changing. And we assume it's going to be 60 hours. And say maybe that's 5 weeks with 15 hours a week that stand's going to be open. The dollars it's going to cost is $10 an hour for labor. So that's going to be 60 times 10, or $600 for the labor. Another cost might be advertising. He decides to take out some ads. He did us 3 of those at $500 a piece. Instead of doing that, I can just drag that down. And he may have a few for his lot. So maybe it's 10 days, because like we're doing a Friday, Saturday, and it's $50 a day. So in this case, I have $9,475 to the good minus the bad, and I'm showing a negative amount. Let's just increase that font size a bit. Okay. So in this case, it wouldn't be a good idea. But I think the beauty of partial budgeting is you can start doing it without even knowing really what's going on. Because I was just kind of picking a lot of numbers out of my head and just kind of throwing them out there and saying, well, what do you think? And then we could say, well, you know what? That's not going to cost $100. That's only going to cost $20. And you know what? I think I can sell this for $1.50. And already, there we've done that. Or it could be on the opposite side. You say, you know what? I can't get $1.25 for those. Maybe I'll only get $1.10. And so you can start to just change things here and just see what it does to your total. So I think the beauty of this is not just doing it once, but instead of doing it on paper where you'd have to recalculate everything, all your calculations are here and they're all on one page. So just start changing all the things and get a feel for what's really doing it. Like advertising, we're doing $1,500 for ads. If you're on a corner where everybody sees you, your signs may be sufficient. So maybe we say, you know what, we don't need those ads. And then you can see how you just keep going with this. And in that case, you're almost going to break even. Maybe it's at 115. Let's see. 118. So I just keep changing that until I get something close to 0 down here, and that's going to be my break-even price. Or I may say, you know what, I'm going to sell them at $1.50, but I may not be able to sell everything. So what if I only sell 7,000 of them instead of 7,500? And so you can just start to change all these things and see if it makes sense and if this is a good idea. And that's the beauty of partial budgeting. And again, it's partial, so we're only considering what changes, and it's not the most sophisticated, but I think this is one of the most valuable tools to analyze new ideas, and it's always where I start with when I'm analyzing things. If it's a new idea and you're not giving up anything, then you could always sometimes have situations where both of these are zeros, because you're just saying, I'm not giving up anything, this is a new idea, and it's not going to result in any savings and costs or revenue. It's just adding a new enterprise. And so that's how you would do that. So now we've talked about liquidity and partial budgeting. So